Well, there we go. Hello.
Hi, Suris!
How you doing?
I'm trying to figure out what's the easiest way to do this. Should I maybe Discord screen share? Let's see.
I could do a Discord screen share real quick. That would work.
Let me see if that is easier.
Yeah, I can just go. Let me change my my background to green real quick.
Okie dokie. We're at 6 hours, 22 minutes, and 18 seconds, by the way. And the hype train has started. We are 3 minutes away from the deadline of this hype train. And we are 33% of the way to a level 2 hype train! As Phoebe would say. Don't worry about it.
Share. Actually, no, I don't do share screen. I do turn video, and I set the video.
I know there's double of me right now. Ready?
YouTube Studio Cam, why are you broken?
Wait, Hobbit, did you just donate a subby to a person named Meat? Is that a person? Is that a real person? It must let you because there's a real person with that name, right? Meat. Thank you for donating one to Meat. Alright,
for some reason,
take a look. It's looking like a green blob right now.
Yeah,
Vivi
it's
has not
working.
started sending image data. Did you turn on your virtual camera? Maybe sometimes it does that.
I think I have forgotten how to do that.
Let's see.
I use it once in a blue moon, and now I'm desperately trying to remember how to do it.
Wait, is this in VTube Studio?
Activate virtual webcam.
Oh,
there we go.
Oh, no, it's not. It's 3D. It's your 3D one. Okay.
This is a 2D one.
Wait, this is 2D? You look so 2D. Bubbly. Oh my god.
I know, right?
What the hell? Such dimension. Okay, I'm gonna show you guys in a second. Give me a sec. What the fuck? How do you look so animated and so fucking round everywhere? Holy shit! Shillin' Boom! Thank you so much for raiding! Hey, creatures. Shumais are here. I love Shumais. Go, raid! Hello, welcome raiders! Let me pull this screen up so you guys can see the person that I'm with. Suck my clit, motherfuckers! That's right, Jumbucha! Thank you so much for following. Thank you! You're playing Elden Ring, you basic fucking bitch! What are you doing? I'm kidding. Hello, welcome!
Suffering, apparently.
Hello, Amatan WD. Hello, Ryuden14. Hello, Ningu. Booba chin. I don't know what you're talking about. This is just how my chin looks. Don't call it a booba.
They're chinsticles.
It might wiggle a little bit like a booba, though. Hello, we're doing a birthday anniversary subathon right now.
One, the other, both, or all of them at the same time.
We're doing... Yes, it's the same day for me. It's the day that my VTuber was debuted, and it's the day when my VTuber was born. So that's where that's from.
Well, happy birthday.
Thank you! Excuse me. I am still trying to figure out how to put you on the screen. I'm trying to do this properly. Okay, there we go. All right. I just need to... I'm totally competent, I promise. Also, I wanted to show you guys. Thank you! I'm glad you like my chin. I like my chin, too. I'm glad that you guys aren't judgery dudes and, like... judgery based off of how jiggly my chin is and how big my chin is. There's some people that think that chin size is important. I'm here to debate that.
They must be big Family Guy fans.
Clearly. Sorry, give me 1 second. Let me just boop, boop, boop. Thank you guys so much for the hype train, by the way. It started right before you guys were here. We had a level 1 hype train with 2 subbies and 1,700 bits. Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm going to move over here and I'm going to turn on the green screen. And I'm going to get you guys a raid song. I don't know if you saw this earlier, but I got a raid song. I commissioned a raid song and now I have a raid song. I'm gonna play it for you guys. I am still trying to work out exactly how to add it properly to my stream. Suck my clit. Suck my clit, motherfucker. Hello, Bastet184. Is it Kanye West? What? No. Hello. Alright, here's the raid song. Da-da-da. I'm gonna sing along to it. Welcome to the stream, strangers. You're invited to my team if you like danger. Spin fire with a little slice of loot. Check out my boba, dude. I am Vivi, the dragon. See? Dragon, not a fucking gremlin! And I'm a little white, but I'm really kawaii. I'll make you the one to call me senpai. I am Vivi, the dragon. Welcome to the stream. Thank you so much for raiding. If you want the club, drop the sub, drop a follow for me. This is not a fucking cult. If you came for that, you can all go home. Punch your ass in a million ways. Might be crass, but I'll make your day. Won't leave my room, no fuck, no way. So one click, can't tell me what to do, okay? Grape soda in my veins. Enjoy the stream, bitch.
So there were two separate experiences there. There was the experience of hearing it on the stream, because I would turn it, I turned it on so I could hear the music, and then I would turn it off to just hear you singing it with none of the background music.
Oh my god, I forgot. That's true. You can hear it the other way. Thank you. What is it down my chin? Well, so sometimes when people go through a interesting time in their life, called puberty, they sometimes produce growths in different parts of their bodies.
When a daddy chin and a mommy chin love each other very much.
This is the daddy chin. This is the mommy chin. You know, and when you shake them, they make more chins. Shoot that long. Thank you so much. Have a good rest. Thank you so much for reading me. Thank you. Hi, thanks. So that is what's on my chin. I hope you have a lovely rest, Shulan. I hope you had a lot of fun playing Elden Ring. If anybody wants to stay and hang out with me, that'd be really cool. We're doing a capped Subathon right now. We have a packed program. And if you guys are interested in the Subathon details, you can use ! Subathon to bring up that little tweet that tells you all the information, including a whole schedule, and the rewards for different amounts that you give, as well as the cumulative goals that will be given for the community. As you can see, Hypescotch is a member of the community that really wants a Made Vivi stream, which I'm telling you guys is not happening. That's why I made the goal so high, because you pathetic little mortals cannot reach that goal. In case you guys are wondering,
they prove you wrong.
Nah, nobody has that much dough. Who's gonna drop like 250,000 bits? No, that's not gonna happen.
Hypescotch.
He's literally poor. Yeah, poor little Hypescotch is poor.
Trying to think if anybody's dropped anywhere near that amount on my stream. Like, no, they have not.
I'm telling you, it's a stretch, and it's a stretch for a reason. It's a huge stretch because it's not happening. I purposely calculated statistically. It will not happen. That's right.
Alright, sir, I just need
check
to
your bank accounts and pay your rent first. Go pay your rent!
But wait, if they live here, isn't their rent the sub?
Oh, no. No. We don't need to talk about this. No. You don't live rent here. You're not renting space here. Don't worry about it. Oh, and depending on the goals, you can do some things to affect my stream. So, for example, on the left here, someone wanted me to put a magic wand on my bed. So that's what we did. That's a magic wand. It does magic tricks, if you will, in my bed. It's a very lovely wand.
Jury's out on definitions.
So right now we're at the section where we are talking with Suris. One of my I'm a huge fan of Suris. I think he is very knowledgeable on a lot of different topics that really, really interest me. And today I want to get him to kind of basically lecture me on what's going on. Because, like, he is... I'm like, I don't read newspapers. So I was thinking Suris can explain to simple little smooth brain me about what is going on in the US right now. Thank you so much, Dino. So yeah, we're going to be talking about, in particular, what I'm interested in. If you know anything about this. Of course you don't. That's fine. We can make up shit. I was thinking we could talk about how recently, as you all know, Roe v. Wade was overturned. And that has had some interesting consequences in the US. I made a spoof video on this where since rape and incest are not exceptions in most states now, for getting an abortion, that's kind of like a big win for incest. So if you ever want to knock out that cousin, this is the time to do it.
Protect yourself with the sanctity of marriage or something.
Even if you're not married, even if whatever, apparently as long as you inseminate, they have to bring it to term and raise that baby. So, you know.
Yeah.
Big win for incest. Wincest. Hashtag Wincest. So what I actually want to talk about was, so even more recently, I would say, what is it? It's either a few days or like a week ago. President Biden has released an executive order, which I don't understand the ramifications of.
I can get into that if you need me to.
Okay, that is exactly what I want to talk about. So actually,
Okay.
I'm not going to talk about it too much. I'm going to let Suris give us some background on it, because Suris is the most knowledgeable VTuber that I trust about these kinds of things. So
that feels like a mistake.
Yeah, probably.
So I do need to correct one thing in the chat, actually. There are 2 states that incest is legal in, one of which is Rhode Island.
That is true. It's New Jersey and Rhode Island.
Yeah, like it is. So it's like, it's not legal. No. It's legal in 2 states.
Mm-hmm.
Awkwardly, Alabama has some of the most restrictive. Yep.
I
They
know,
were
it's
just
so
like,
weird.
this is a problem, stamp it out with the law. But on the on the topic of the executive order, probably good to go into just a little bit of detail about what's happened and why first. Because I know that a lot of people, especially people who consume a lot of VTuber content's really, really good for escapism, right? It's like a whole nother world you can sit in and just forget about every problem that exists outside of the 4 doors of your house, which is good. Like, we all need that sometimes, but unfortunately, as a result, sometimes we get really, really insular, and it's hard to cope with the fact that there's all this dumb shit happening outside.
That's true.
So what's happened, obviously, the Supreme Court ruled, and it was technically a 5-4 ruling, but realistically it's a 6-3 ruling because it was one conservative judge going, I don't know. Kind of. But Roe v. Wade was overturned. Roe v. Wade being the constitutional right to... it's been interpreted as a constitutional right to an abortion. Realistically, it was a constitutional right to privacy for AFAB bodies, is what it functionally was. The reason it was that is the entire basis of the argument was on Amendment 14, which is our constitutional right to our own privacy. Something our government has been slowly eroding over time, if anybody's taken notice, since 2001. But the so this created a couple of problems. One, the arguments for Roe v. Wade, the argument for personal privacy was always kind of a shaky. It was always kind of a shaky ground to run it on, but awkwardly, that entire argument was had with a conservative majority Supreme Court.
Sorry, I'm just going to interrupt you just very, very briefly. Honking Champion was saying that he feels so dumb listening to this, he doesn't know the terms. So I was wondering, well, let's go back a little bit and talk a little bit about the different things that are in play here. So you were talking about the 14th Amendment of the Constitution. Can you go into a little bit more detail about what that means about like privacy and our bodies and stuff like that?
So the 14th Amendment is that is the 13th Amendment. I'm gonna look it up.
Is it 13th? Okay.
No. 13th is the one that abolished slavery. It's a different one.
So not the slavery one, guys.
Yeah, not the
Not
slavery
the slavery
one.
Okay.
So there's multiple sections for the 14th Amendment, but let me go ahead and pull it up here. The 14th Amendment granted citizens, all born or naturalized, including former enslaved people, equal protection under the law. This was one of the 3 amendments passed during the Reconstruction era to abolish slavery. That was the original term, like equal protection under the law. Over time, that term has been reinterpreted to be your personal privacy, like your right to your own privacy. This extends to things like needing warrants to search your house, things like that.
Oh.
The way this works, it works this way for almost all amendments. So, like, what was considered freedom of speech in America 200 years ago is not what is considered freedom of speech now. What was considered a right to bear arms in America 200 years ago is not the same thing as now.
That's
like,
true.
right to bear arms originally was right to having a well-regulated militia, which was handled by your state's cities, whereas now it's your individual
it's about
right
individual
to own a
gun
firearm.
rights, right?
Yeah, so like when an amendment pops up and it says this is what this does, over time, what that amendment encompasses tends to either increase or decrease, and the people who choose that are the Supreme Court. The way our government works in simple terms is we have an executive branch. That's where Biden is right now. That's the president.
Presidency.
The legislative branch.
The
that's
Trump.
your legislative is like your House of Representatives, your Senate. These are the people who
Those are
do
people
your
that we
votes.
vote for. That
Yeah,
get,
we vote
turned
for
into
them.
lawmakers.
And then you have the judiciary branch. These are the judges. This is all the courts from like the court you had to walk into because you had a driving ticket, all the way up to the Supreme Court that all these decisions are being handed down on. That's all judiciary. So when an amendment extends, when that amendment means more than what it was originally intended, that's the Supreme Court looking at a court case that has been brought up to them and saying, okay, this thing here makes sense per a certain interpretation of that law. Like if I said, I have a right to privacy, one person might assume that that right to privacy means nobody can take what I view on the internet. And another person can say, well, no, there are terms and services for your browser that says that the things you view actually can be used by other countries. And that's where you get like one thing that's interpreted a different way to other people. You'll notice if you look at any Supreme Court ruling, all the Supreme Court justices write a document which is their justification for their decision. Each of them have a different reason for voting a certain way on any constitutional amendment when they're trying to see, like, does this extend to a right to privacy? Does this extend to this, that, or the other? Each of them are going to have a different interpretation. So the reason that we've had Roe taken away is we have more conservative judges who are further to the right in the Overton window. So they're what we call constitutional originalists. A constitutional originalist is somebody whose interpretations of the Constitution or an amendment is going to be more along the lines of what the Founding Fathers intended and less along the lines of how we currently view things. So even though we had conservative justices under Nixon when Roe v. Wade was codified 50 years ago, and conservative justices now, the difference is those justices before weren't constitutional originalists the way that people like, Amy Coney Barrett are. They're going to look at this and go, well, the Founding Fathers didn't care about abortion, so why should I? That's functionally how they're going to read it.
Can you explain a little bit about the motivation behind being a constitutionalist originalist?
So this is like an argument that you get in language all the time. Does a word mean what it was originally intended to mean when the word was coined, or does the word mean what society has kind of accepted it to mean now? Let's look at a term like idiot, right? So idiot began as a medical diagnosis for someone. As literally, like 100 years ago.
Wait,
yeah, 100 years ago.
Can you imagine a doctor writing on your chart? Idiot!
You can imagine that because 20 years ago, that's what we used the R slur for.
No! Really? Oh my
Yes.
god.
So
Oh my god. I didn't know you could be diagnosed an idiot. Okay, that's really interesting.
it was. I think it was like if you took an IQ test and you measured like under 70, you actually got a diagnosis of idiot.
Oh my
Was what it
god.
was.
Oh,
So
apparently Honking knew that. Okay.
yeah. So viewing how the Supreme Court looks at this is easier to view through the lens of language because we have the word idiot. Now, idiot now just means I think you're stupid or that thing you did was idiotic. Like I
Right.
think you shouldn't have done that. There was a better thing you could have done.
But you're
That's
not
all
like
idiot means
clinically
now.
an idiot.
Yeah, it's a very soft term now. But 100 years ago, when it was coined, it was not a soft term. 100 years ago, it was a medical diagnosis that affected your ability to get a job. Like,
Oh.
it was so
that's
that was a
right.
term that was incredibly derogatory 100 years ago, but over time the term has softened. So if somebody's an originalist, they will say never use the term idiot. It has always meant this medical diagnosis and has a huge stigma attached to it. But somebody who just uses it in common parlance now, they're going to go, what the hell are you talking about? That's not what we mean when we say idiot.
So would you say like the modern versions were like retardation or something like that? Where like we're not supposed to use like retard or something?
It's the exact same thing. It's the exact same thing because that was a diagnosis as well, and we still use that in medical terminology. So like if the medical term for stopping a cancer from spreading through the body is literally to retard the cancer. Like that's the medical term for it. So like we do still have like it's the same thing, but unlike idiot, there are still areas where we will use the term in medical speech that is perfectly applicable and still used today, and it doesn't carry the stigma there. Whereas like looking at somebody and just calling them the R slur, like yeah, that will probably somebody's going to feel a certain way about that.
Okay, wait a second. So now I'm thinking about, okay, this applied to being a constitutional originalist. To me, that sounds like, so like I'm trying to figure out like in terms of motivation wise, what would be the function of using the term like this? Is it to build like a consistent definition for people to follow in terms of like lawmaking? Is that like one of the motivations behind being like a constitutional originalist?
It can depend. So a constitutional originalist can really, the reasons that they take it can be a variety of reasons. One of them can be they truly believe that what America was at its founding is what America should have stayed, which is a very yikesy position to take. Because
I can see there being a lot of pride for that time, for the people, for the glory that was the USA during that time. It was a very
there's a lot of blind patriotism to that perspective that ignores things that we did. Like we were not a very functional nation at the time, but like we were literally built on the backs of slaves. Fun fact: we never actually abolished slavery in the United States legally.
Wait, thanks for dropping that.
I'm not kidding though. Like the
just
13th
a little
Amendment,
tidbit there. Here we go.
The 13th Amendment actually allows for one to be a slave as long as they have been put into a prison.
Wait,
like, yeah,
you're kidding.
I'm not kidding. If you read the 13th Amendment, the amendment that banned slavery said specifically that it allowed an exception as long as somebody was part of the prison system.
Oh my god.
We never technically fully abolished it.
Oh my god.
Yep. It's so this is you can see how like if one person says America abolished slavery and then one person says no we didn't, these two people might mean the same thing and still end up fighting because person A is like, no, we abolished it, nobody works on plantations anymore, and then the person B goes, but we have prisons and we have legal slavery in that, and the person A goes, yes, I agree with you. So they're both saying the same thing, and now they're fighting. And yes, it is
interesting. Okay.
Squares Digitals is correct. It is also meant to target poor people because your ability to avoid prison most of the time is based on your ability to do things like post bail, afford a good lawyer. There's definitely a financial
financial factor, yeah.
Yeah, there's a huge financial factor. into whether or not you'll maintain being in a jail cell, and like how long you'll be in one, and then whether or not you'll be able to fight to get out. Because like a public lawyer, most of the times a public lawyer is not going to get you off of your case. They're handling 15 of you. They don't remember your name, much less your case.
That's true.
But
yeah, as Digimouse is saying, the U.S. has one of the most crowded prison system in the world, apparently.
We are considered a prison state. Like we have,
we're considered a prison state.
We have one of the highest incarceration rates in the entire world.
Oh god!
Like by the definition of a prison state, we fit it. A chunk of our labor force is supplanted by the United States prison system, and our prison system itself is built in such a way that we get people who go into the prison as a revolving door. We are, as a nation, we have one of the highest incarceration rates.
Wait. Is it really profitable for us? Like,
yes.
So like, we are like it is. If we didn't have the free labor force, or aka slaves, from the prison system, would we suffer greatly economically?
Would we suffer greatly? I don't think so, because we have other methods, but it is still a carryover. Like it costs, so it costs taxpayers. The number is supposed to be that it costs taxpayers per person in the prison system. It costs us a certain amount. It's usually like said 20 to 40,000 per prisoner, but that number is not super accurate because prison systems tend to do a lot of cost cutting. For instance, in Florida, actually, there is a politician who is trying to work to become governor of Florida, and part of their platform is that they are going to make it a federal, not federal, obviously, but they're going to push for air conditioning to be required in Florida prisons, because most Florida prisons don't have AC at all.
Holy shit! How are they not dying in there? Oh my god! Wait, were they dying in there?
So there is a rate of heat stroke that is higher than it should be, I will say.
Oh my god.
And so wait, why do you need air conditioning? Because you're in Florida. Florida is the hottest state in the US.
I think the idea is that maybe in whatever situation that they're in, they're packed in such a way that they won't be able to live comfortably without being sick or going to a doctor without AC or some other method of controlling the temperature.
Which then ultimately increases the burden on taxpayers, because now when you have a prison population that gets more sick more often, they require medicine more often, and that medicine has to be funded by us.
Okay, that makes sense.
But
so interesting. So like there are some kind of like different alleviation cards here. Okay. Anyway, sorry.
Yeah,
I think we're going way off topic, but this is so interesting.
We're going off tangent, so I'm gonna pull us back. This is so
interesting. Okay, but yeah. Let's pull back. Okay, so the original reason why we're talking about this is because of we want to understand a little bit more about the Roe v. Wade decision and the overturning of Roe v. Wade, and also the subsequent response from our executive branch Biden president into doing an executive order after it has been overturned. So yeah, that is the main topic for us today. Okay, go ahead.
So Biden's executive order is it's a wonderful gesture. I think that it's a great thing that he has put it down. However, it's not really going to help all that much. What Biden's executive order...
That's exactly what I was wondering about. Okay. Because when I was reading the content of the executive order, I was like, what is the actionable parts of anything? I don't understand how any of this turns into stuff. It just sounds like words. Okay, anyway, sorry, go ahead.
What Biden's executive order does, the things that it does is it prevents a state from limiting your ability to travel. That's like the biggest thing, because there have been some states that are trying to limit people's ability to travel to get needed contraception. So like, for instance, the issue that happened in Ohio recently, the 10-year-old girl who was abused in Ohio and then had to go to Indiana in order to get an abortion. And there's a whole rabbit hole where that's concerned, where like conservatives are trying to demonize the doctor now who gave the 10-year-old the abortion, of all things, because I want to understand people with that mindset, but that's not the conversation right now. So what the executive order, the biggest thing it's doing is making it to where a state cannot say within its legislation that they can limit your ability to travel to get an abortion. You can't go, a state can't say it's illegal to do an abortion here, but it's not illegal to do an abortion in, say, California.
Right.
You're not allowed to go to California to get that abortion. They can't do that. And Biden's, because some states have tried, and Biden's executive order, that's the main thing it's able to help. What it can't do, it cannot stop a state from inhibiting abortion at all. Currently, we have 14 states now that have banned or restricted it in some way. And the executive order can't do anything about that.
I actually have a map for this. There we go. Look at that little map. Yeah, right there. That's where abortion is having some a resurgence of resistance.
Problemos. So currently here's the reason that Biden's executive order ultimately isn't going to matter a whole lot. I want you to look at Arkansas on that map. So let's say somebody is in the southeast of Arkansas and they need an abortion. Where do they go? Where do they go? They're locked. They have to go northwest, roughly about 300 miles. And that's assuming that they can even find a Planned Parenthood anywhere near the southern border of the nearest.
I'm just gonna blow this up so you guys can see what Suris is talking about. So do you see the arc on the map right there? It's surrounded on all sides with other red states, right?
It's got Mississippi, Oklahoma, and everywhere else.
It's all surrounded by these different states. It's not actually touching any states that have abortion that's legal. And because of this, it would be very difficult for someone in Arkansas to travel to another state to be able to get an abortion.
Yep. Not to mention, like, let's say somebody's in southern Texas. Where the hell do they go? That they've got about 500 miles.
That's true.
Northwest
Texas is so big
to manage anything. And I'm surprised that doesn't show Georgia, because Georgia actually had a heartbeat bill that went that was. Oh,
sorry.
in.
This is old, by the way. So this is from when I did a video. How long ago was it now? I want to say it was 2 weeks ago. Things are changing really, really fast right now. A lot of state laws are going into effect.
Because the 14th state came in 6 days ago.
Oh yeah, exactly. So there's been definitely some changes since then. This was the first. I think this is the update. I think within 5 days or so of when Roe v. Wade was overturned. So that's where this map is. And
this map, I believe, was based entirely off of the trigger laws.
Yes.
Yes. So maybe we need to get into what a trigger law is. So let's say that you, as a politician, you've got a really. It doesn't matter which way the political pendulum swings in your state. Let's just say you've got a majority one way or the other, right? And you put a law through on the books. You say ice cream cannot be consumed on Tuesday. That's the law you put on the book. No ice cream on Tuesdays.
Uh-huh.
And regardless of your reasons for this, if somebody will then have ice cream on Tuesday, they're going to go to the police department. They're going to get charged, all that. They're going to fight that case in court. They're going to have to go through 2 appellate courts, and they're going to go to the Supreme Court eventually. The Supreme Court's going to look at that case and go, what the fuck are you talking about? You can't have ice cream on Tuesday? Who rules that? And they're going to go, this law is unconstitutional. And it's going to take you about, maybe a year or 2, maybe even more to get to that point. But a court on the appellate road is going to say, this law is unconstitutional. You can't do that. So now you've got a law that is sitting on the books that you can't enforce anymore because a higher court has said this law can't be enforced. You can't take your ice cream madness into the public eye. You can't ban this. However, let's say that 5 years down the road, the Supreme Court releases a drafted decision saying we're actually reconsidering the ice cream laws in Oklahoma.
Mm-hmm.
And this law has now entered the realm of what's called a trigger law. This is a law that cannot be enforced as it was written, but if a higher court says, actually, no, we've reconsidered, that law immediately turns on and becomes enforceable either within 1 day or 30 days of that Supreme Court decision going on the books. Functionally, this awkward ice cream scenario is what 13 states have done with abortion. They've tried to restrict abortion via a heartbeat law or something like that, and somebody has taken that position of their state and ran it through the courts, and the courts have said, you can't do this because of Roe v. Wade. So that law sits there just unable to be enforced, unable to have anything done about it. But then the Supreme Court comes in and says, hey, actually, we've reconsidered whether or not women are people. They put their argument forward. Roe gets overturned. Suddenly, these 13 states that had unenforceable laws, they can be enforced now. They are now things that legally can be utilized.
From what I understand, the actual arguments against Roe v. Wade from the conservative side are more about federal government shouldn't have control over certain things, and they wanted to return that power to the states. Is that right?
Yes, but so that's the argument presented, but that's not really. I can't read like Amy Coney Barrett's or Brett Kavanaugh's or Justice Alito's minds. I can't read their minds. But I would say that is not the intent, because so let me, just like we did with the ice cream thing, let's run this back to another conversation that was had in the United States. Let's talk about the Civil War for just a moment.
Okay, sure.
So what was one of the primary arguments that the South had when it came to their rights to secede and their rights to keep slavery when they thought the Union was going to try to take away slavery?
Was it also about like states' rights then? It's like, hey,
states' rights. That states' rights was their exact argument.
I see.
They said that we do not like big government, so it is the states' rights as to whether or not we should have slavery. Now, technically, that argument has a little bit of merit. The more government, the more rules you have, the harder it can be to just function in a society. The more rules you have to abide by. And like on a surface level, sure, that makes some sense. But then when you consider, like, well, hold on, do you think that whether or not a person should be a slave should be based down to the chance of where they're born? Like, is that, because that's where that argument ends up leading. If somebody happens to be born in a state that has slavery, they could happen to be born a slave, and I mean, now they're fucked. But we had this exact argument about states' rights when it came to slavery once before in the United States. So what the Supreme Court has done now is they have brought back the states' rights argument that was had about slavery, but now it's about women's bodies, functionally. And there's other stuff that has...
but the function of it, I can't imagine... I don't know. I mean, I personally know a few people that are on the conservative side. Most of the people that I'm friends with are liberal, but I know some people that are, And I don't think there's anybody that's maliciously going, that's great, I love taking rights away from women. You know what I mean? I understand, like, functionally that might be what might be happening.
Disagree.
But, like, are there people celebrating, like, yes, women shouldn't decide? Like, in all the people that I've talked to, I haven't really seen that as much.
So there are, your average everyday conservative, because I have friends who are conservatives too. I live in Georgia. Like, it comes with the territory. And most of them, like, we don't see eye to eye on abortion, but they don't want a full restriction of abortion. However, you do have to remember that there's a difference between your average day-to-day voter and, say, a pundit, somebody who has a financial incentive to hold certain opinions. So,
I see. So you're saying there's like a financial motivation behind like big company, like big systemic decisions towards like profit or something else that could be motivating this.
There's a bit to that, and I'll get to that. That's a separate part of the conversation. I'll get to that here in a moment. But for now, I want to... There is a person who I have done content on my channel. Are you okay with me name dropping them, or would you rather I not? That is entirely up to you.
You are entirely okay with name dropping. Go for it.
All right. This person's name is Nicholas J. Fuentes.
Okay.
He is, in no uncertain terms, somebody who I would very quickly coin a Nazi. I don't have
like actually I thought that was just a meme.
So this person who, and I can send some videos I've done on him to you after this if you want. But so this is a person who has been publicly anti-Semitic on his channel. He's very anti-women's rights, and he's made no bones about it. He's literally said women should not have a right to vote. They shouldn't have a right to their bodies. They should do exactly what men say at all times. He's made these arguments on his channel repeatedly. It's why he's banned from YouTube. It's why he's banned from Twitch. He has to stream on, like, I think he's moved to D Live now or something. I don't remember. But he's been kicked off several platforms because he is a person, and several people in his audience are people who, when you think of that, like, crazy, there's no way anybody really believes this person.
So you're
they
like
are
a
that
caricature.
person.
This is the extreme side. You know, at least like the big famous person that is like this. There's at least this one person that you know.
There is at the very least him, and there are more than that. But he'll be the example here. He has gone on record several times saying that, like, he strictly wants to restrict women's rights because he doesn't believe they are people. He's said several times he believes they are a form of subhuman that needs to just be subservient. And
but that is an extreme, though, right? It must be, right? I feel like there's definitely a lot of crazy people, and like the craziest people are the people that are loudest. Wouldn't you say?
I would say yes. On the whole, most people tend to be some flavor of moderate.
Right.
You don't get, like, the term extremist exists for a reason. They are extreme, and there is a minority of them. The problem is he's a pundit. His job is to, like, he's a streamer, and he's got a massive audience that dwarfs both yours and mine combined.
I see.
So on the one hand, yes, this is an extreme, and he's smaller than, say, somebody who goes on Fox News frequently.
Right.
But I would not say that him or his audience are small. I would not use that term to describe them.
I see.
Smaller than the amount of moderates you find. Absolutely. But yeah, no, you're right that your regular day-to-day person is not sitting here going, women's rights bad.
Right. Yeah. But it could be that the loudest voices, the most influential voices, are that.
Yeah, there are some who believe that, and there are enough of them for them to be of note. But they are still smaller, and that's the silver lining. The silver lining is there are fewer of them, which is good. But
we actually have a conservative in the chat right now. I'm not sure if you know. One of our mods, Digimouse, I would say in general, his political beliefs skew towards conservative, and he's also talked about like what he believes in different people that he talks to. And that is usually the typical of what I have seen from like the day-to-day person that you talk to that is a conservative. So I think it is important to recognize, I think you're making a good point, which is that the people who have like the big audiences, that have like the big reactions and everything like that. So for example, if you look at Fox News and fucking what's his face?
Tucker Carlson.
Yes, thank you. His section is considered like entertainment or something like that. Sort of. Or something like that. Legally entertainment, because it's not supposed to be like just like news, right? He's purposely inflammatory to get people like riled up, and that's part of the entertainment value. But because of that, there's still a lot of people that watch, right? Because it's so fun to watch something like that.
And the problem you run into is there's another side, an awkward side to that coin. If you ask the average person, is Fox News a news channel? They will say yes. They will say yes, it is a news channel, and then sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes they'll also say it's my primary source for news. I have a friend who does not watch Fox News, but does go to One American News Network that is worse than Fox News. And that is my partner.
Actually, that is what. Oh, sorry.
Streaming.
Yep. Oh, is your partner okay? Do you need to take a little break?
She's fine. She's streaming with a friend, and just had a loud reaction to a thing on her game.
Oh, okay. As long as it's not like, oh my god. Okay. No emergency there. Yeah, Digimouse actually made a point that I have actually seen as well from talking to conservative friends, which is a lot of conservative people consider Fox News as very liberal. And compared to what it used to be.
Compared to what it used to be, but considering they still have Tucker, and in terms of the breadth of the stories that they cover, there are some that are getting to be a little more liberal, which is good to see. It's good to see them moving further away from extremism, but
it also means that conservatives don't use Fox News as a main news source anymore, is what I have seen. They're moving more towards like smaller alternative news sources,
which tend to be worse,
which are more extreme, and like
One American News Network is a big one for that. Another problem you get where Fox News is concerned is it is the most consumed news network in the nation, with Tucker Carlson being the most watched pundit in the nation. And I will say they still put their stories out, like where they doxed the doctor who was in Indiana who helped the 10-year-old get an abortion. They went through and put her name up publicly, put her visage up, did all of that, and then like the Attorney General of Indiana was on there saying like, no, we're going to go after her, we're going to do this, which can lead to another issue. If you've ever heard the term stochastic terrorism.
Stochastic terrorism. Doesn't stochastic mean like random or something?
It means random. So let's say I'm in a group of 100 people.
Yeah.
And there's a person annoying me. And I go, hey, this person is annoying me. Won't somebody rid me of them? Like, it would be nice if somebody rid me of them. And then
is that what canceling is? I do that on Twitter.
No. This is the would somebody
me. Go ban.
No, this one's the would someone rid me of this meddlesome priest thing, where like you say a statement like someone should do something about this.
Oh, I see. Okay.
And then hundreds of thousands of people will hear that statement and go, maybe more people will hear it and go, yeah, something should be done about it. But randomly, and this is where the term stochastic comes in, there will be one or two people who go, you're right, someone should do something about this, and that someone is me.
And that's what you depend on, is that small percentage.
Sometimes. And this creates an environment where the person who said the thing, the won't somebody rid me of this thing, they have plausible deniability. Like in a court of law, the court can't, you can't go to that person and say, you incited violence, because legally, as far as the United States is concerned, they didn't incite violence. They just said, wouldn't it be convenient if this person was taken care of, and then somebody did it.
I see.
That creates a
wait, like the January thingy with Trump. Is that what you mean? Like where it's just like Trump, a sort of like a vague suggestion.
Like, I'm not saying storm into the building. But we should definitely march in that general direction. Yeah, it's the same. It's the same kind of deal. It's the same kind of stuff there. And that's where you start to run into issues. Is we don't have a way to hold people accountable for that kind of stuff, and it's really hard to mechanically do that, because like if I say, like any one of us could say that a person who's a public figure is a problem, and then any one of our fans could go out and do something stupid that they should not do, and then someone can make the argument, well, technically this content creator was accountable, it's their fault, they convinced a member of their audience to go do something harmful. It's like, well, no, they didn't. We publicly aired a grievance about a person, and so sometimes you don't even intend it to happen,
right?
But it nonetheless can. Like yeah, Digimouse is right there. You can't regulate stupid. It's you can't regulate stupid. There's a line where you can hold people accountable, and there's a point where you stop having that ability to realistically. So like there's an argument to be had that Fox News putting that doctor's visage up there on the screen, giving her name, saying that she's a criminal, doing all these things. There's an argument to be had that can cause a stochastic issue where people will go and harass or harm that doctor in real life because they're doing that. But then you get the other side of the argument that, well, they're the news. They're technically doing their job reporting the news. And you get this long back and forth about whether, like, should they not in this government. My position is they're fucking stupid and they shouldn't. My position very quickly is doctor provides abortion for 10-year-old. Are you saying 10-year-old should carry to term? I've seen people make the argument that yes, the 10-year-old should have been forced to carry to term.
Right.
I've seen that. I have a video planned on my channel about a person who has made that argument publicly.
Yes.
So, like, my position is this, but if I step aside from my position and talk about it just as a whole, there is a long back and forth that can be had there.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where you tend to run into issues. But but we've also, once again, pulled very far away from the original
that's
topic.
Right.
We did.
Sorry, executive order. We were talking about the executive order. So that was one of the things, was access to getting care in other states, and that's how this idea of like the 10-year-old that want to get the abortion for the 10-year-old, and they weren't able to without making sure certain things are in place. Yes.
Yeah. And then so the problem with an executive order, the issue with it is, for one, obviously it can't like restrict a state so much, which is not really a problem. That's kind of a feature. You don't want the president to be able to just sign one thing into law and suddenly everybody's screwed. Like, we have a balance of power for a reason. We don't want that. But let's say that the next president comes along and says, well, I don't like that executive order. They can just exit out. Like,
from what I understand, that is what executive orders are supposed to be. They're supposed to be quick, like,
quick
things that you
stopgaps.
can, quick stopgaps while things are starting to catch up, so that other things have a little bit more time to like get enacted. So it's not supposed to be a permanent law. The idea is it's supposed to be like a nudge in a certain direction, so that, you know, as things play out over the next year, 2 years, this is like kind of like a thing to kind of nudge it in one direction.
Yeah, that's why it's like I'm happy that he signed the executive order that he did. I think that it's helpful,
Exactly,
but it's not. But it doesn't stop a whole lot, and it's good as a gesture, and it's good that it's happening, and it's good for public relations reasons. Like you want to be known as the president that tried to protect women's rights.
Yeah.
Obviously, cool. But again, like, this is not a permanent solution. So then you run into the issue of needing to still vote to do things like codify Roe.
Mm-hmm.
And now we've run into another two walls, actually. One issue we're running into is that, for instance, by and large, the Republican side of things does not want to codify Roe v. Wade, and the Democratic side
just
does.
a little bit more for the people in the chat. So like, what does it mean to codify?
So if you were to codify Roe v. Wade, as opposed to it being, this is a law this is a law circumstantially, because the Supreme Court decided that a thing is interpreted this way, you actually functionally make a law that says women have a right to abortion up to a certain number of weeks. We didn't have a law that said that in so many words that was federal. We had a Supreme Court decision that everything else had to be interpreted through. Without that Supreme Court decision...
Exactly. I think this is actually a very, very important point. So, like, people talk about, like, oh, no, they overturned Roe v. Wade, the big law that guaranteed abortion. There was no law.
It was not a law.
It was never a law. It is just a way that you're interpreting the case. And one of the things that they were thinking about doing is that instead, like, right now it's just interpreted a different way. Still, there are no laws. You have state laws that talked a lot about different types of abortion, but there's no federal law that said you need to allow abortion or something like that. It was just an interpretation of a current thing that is already there. So what they mean by codify is actually making it explicit into an actual federal law, where you actually write it out and say, like, explicitly, abortion is not allowed or something like that, or abortion has to be allowed, etc.
Because
okay, anyway,
Because what the Supreme Court's going to do is they're going to be like, is this constitutional? But when you put the law in, it relies less on is this specifically constitutional and more on was the will of the people heard? Did the people? We're not a democracy. We're a republic. We have representative democracy.
That's true.
Was the will of the people exercised through the mechanics of the Senate and the House? And that's how a law is made. The Senate and the House, there's restrictions on which one of them can write certain laws, like budgetary stuff goes through the House, for instance. But yeah, getting the actual laws written, getting them codified, that's the House, that's the Senate. Those are the people who at least the House, we're voting on in
Thank
November.
you for the alert. We are at 5 hours and 30 minutes and 8 seconds. If you'd like to raise the timer, you can contribute subs, bits, or $10 minimum donation to raise the timer. Our goal is to get to Sunday night, midnight, if we can. Right now, we are through until, let's see, around 10:30? I think we have right now until around 10:30 p.m. tonight, EDT. All right, sorry, go ahead.
So the problems we're running into, there's two issues. One is that, let's say you understand already that Democrats and Republicans both suck. Like we have that understanding going in right now.
We all know that both sides suck. Okay, yes, I agree.
but we understand that there are certain things that one side or the other has in like their list of like these are the values you tend to have kind of sort of when you're on one side of things. When it comes to abortion rights, those tend to be more democratic now, thanks to the Southern strategy, which I can get into later if I need to. But those tend to be more on the democratic side of things. And yes, I agree to Jamouse. The two-party system sucks, but we functionally we have no way of changing it as of right now. Because we have a first past the post system. First past the post system mathematically always breaks down into a two-party system. CGB Grey actually did a wonderful video on this, which sucks because it's like I want to be
it's
like
so ingrained that it's it's like impossible to get away from.
Like I want to be the person that goes like, hey, yeah, vote for the person who shares the majority of your values. That I'm like,
wait,
God, but that's not going to work.
It doesn't work.
I hate that. But.
Yeah.
So, like, when it comes to abortion, most of the time, that's a Democratic thing. Usually, most Democrat politicians, the voters vary wildly, but the politicians tend to vote in favor of abortion measures on the Democratic side. So, here's where we hit our problem. In the Senate right now, we have the slimmest of, like, bare majorities. Like, just ever so barely. And it's really only a technicality, because I need to introduce you to a lovely man named Joe Manchin.
Joe Manchin.
Manchin is a Democrat who is filed under Democrat, is legally part of that party, and tends to almost always vote Republican. Awkwardly. So with us having like a very, very slim margin of Democratic senators, most laws that try to go through the Senate right now, they have two stonewalls. The first one is we don't technically have that majority because Manchin's there. Like, it's very, very hard because his voting technically does not slide with the party usually, which wouldn't matter much if he was not also the deciding vote half the time.
I see.
And the other problem we have is the Senate has this lovely little tradition called the filibuster.
Oh yeah.
I
only know that because of Parks and Rec, where I saw this lady. She was wearing roller skates because she was gonna go somewhere, but then she had to filibuster, so she just sat there standing and like trying to keep talking about nothing. And she was really tired, and she really needed to pee.
Jesus.
That's all I know.
Yeah, there is cinema as well, Digimouse. You are correct there. I'm just trying to. I don't want to throw like a shit ton of names out because then it makes things. It complicates things needlessly.
I would say the vast majority of the people in the chat probably don't know a lot about a lot of things. We're gonna have a few people that know a lot, and most of the people are not gonna know too much. So actually, I do want to keep this like very general. Thank you so much for the timer. To just get a general overview of the issue. Most of this is I want people to understand what is actually happening. That is the main thing that I want. I think that's very, very important. A lot of things happen when in the US, especially with like laws and other things like that, they get misinterpreted by the news and other things like that very quickly. And while this is still fresh, I want to get like a different take on this so that people actually are more aware about the ramifications of the different things that are happening. Because I think what people think of an executive order and like overturning a Roe v. Wade, it probably isn't what they think it is, which is why I want to talk to you. What I consider an expert, I know like this person is not, it's not the same as like, I don't know, talking to an academic or something like that, but I do think that Suris is very, very knowledgeable, has read up on a lot of things, and this is the main part of his content. He does a lot of this kind of stuff like as a job, basically. So I am so thankful that he's here to explain like kind of these concepts to us. Oh, sorry. Give me 1 second. I forgot. Okay, so like my Discord like shuts off every once in a while. It's like being really upset with me. I actually do think it's not just that people have no critical thinking or something like that. I think that news and everything is being... Thank you so much for... Okay, so yeah, the news and everything is becoming... How do you say? It's a different type of digestion than it used to be. And a lot of people are picking up of random tidbits of things that they hear, whatever random most interesting parts that they think is most inflammatory, and then using that to build communities around something that might not have even been a thing. Yes, exactly. Polarizing. And that's actually one of the big things that I want to do on my platform as Vivi Chan. I know I don't talk about this a lot. I'm usually just, I don't know, making ball jokes. But it is important to me that you guys get like at least a little bit of that, so you guys get to talk to each other about things that aren't just the little tidbits of information that you heard from the news. So yeah, anyway, go ahead, NekoSuris.
I am trying to remember what I was saying before.
Sorry, we have like
the filibuster. The filibuster edition.
We're
there are some people who might not know what a filibuster is. So in the United States, every 6 years you elect your senators, and every 2 years you elect people into your House of Representatives. Mm-hmm. Did you know that it used to not be that way?
What was it like before, Suris?
The executive branch and the bits of the legislative branch, they handpicked senators and brought them in. And then the House, though, we always voted for the House. That was a thing that we always did in America for the most part, since that institution was put in. But the Senate used to be mostly populated by... functionally, it was the aristocracy. The reason we called it the House, it was supposed to be the lower house and the upper house. The lower house was our House of Representatives, the people we elect every 2 years. And the upper house was the Senate, the people the aristocracy put in power so that you could have the arguments from the people that, do all the work and the arguments from the people who are parasites. A bit of an oversimplification, but functionally that's what it was. Senate was appointed by the legislature.
Sorry, there's one thing I want to address. King Plotin in the chat says, polarization isn't horrible. It's like conversation can't even start today. It devolves into name-calling if someone simply disagrees. I actually don't think that's the only problem. I do think polarization itself is also an issue. And the reason I think that is because I think it kind of gives you an idea of the health of a nation by how extreme the extremes are and how much they agree with one another. And when you see like polarization, you see these extremes pop up, obviously there's going to be discontent because no matter which way things go, someone's going to be upset. You can see the values of the different people in the nation are very, very different. Okay, sorry, there you go.
There's also another issue you have with what's called the Overton window, the grouping of beliefs that are considered normal within your country. A lot of American culture is more right wing than a lot of, say, European culture on not every issue, mind you. There are some social issues that we are more left wing on than, say, places like Japan are. But a lot of our stuff is shifted farther to the right in the global Overton window.
Yes.
Doesn't mean a whole lot if you just care about United States politics, but it does matter if you've got a friend in Germany, for instance, who's like, that thing sounds really weird, that thing you said, and you're like, oh, well, it's weird because it's not the norm for your country's politics, but it is within the. I know Japan isn't in Europe, but my example of a country that is harder on certain like social issues than we are would be Japan. They're the one that comes to mind immediately. There are certain things that Finland, for instance, certain things that we would not do as a nation right now legally that Finland does do. Like, say, if you legally get a gender change in Finland, you must get sterilized, which is not a thing here.
Oh my God, that's so terrifying.
Like, that's like on the one hand, they're like, yeah, it's easier to get that stuff done. On the other hand, they're like, what?
But also,
we're gonna do this thing that is technically considered a step in genocide. Also, Digi Mouse, definitely get your blood sugar taken care of. That is no joke. My partner is diabetic.
Go get some food.
Yeah, do not mess with that stuff. Go take care of yourself.
Go get something.
So
we love you.
The reason, to bring it back to the Senate, the reason that the filibuster even exists there in the first place is the Senate was the aristocracy. These were the people that had all the time in the world because they didn't really work, all things considered. So they had the tradition of infinite debate. You can debate as long as you want about anything you want, and you can debate your own position. Like, the amount of time it takes for you to state your case can be as long as you choose. That is based entirely on the Senate originally being, the United States didn't have royalty, but functionally the equivalent of what we would have as nobles were the people running the Senate. Whereas the House of Representatives, it was assumed, oh, you're in the House.
Class.
Yeah, you need to be
the common people.
You need to spend a certain amount of time debating because we need to get shit done. We need to do stuff faster. We need to be we're the people on the ground this affects, so we need to do shit now. So there's a limited amount of debate allowed in the House. So whenever somebody says a politician is filibustering, that they're talking about a senator. A senator is the senators have the filibuster. Reps do not. But that all said, those are the two issues you have there. You have people who, when you're relying on people to vote on party lines, which we shouldn't be in a position where party lines matter. But when you're relying on people to vote on party lines for a human rights issue, and on top of that, somebody can just say, well, you guys might have the votes, but I'm going to talk about Sonic the Hedgehog for 30 hours until we go to recess. Which is a thing you can do.
Right.
Ted Cruz famously read Green Eggs and Ham on the Senate floor as his filibuster.
Lovely.
I think that says something about his reading level, but that's just me.
Don't even. Okay. Excuse me.
That's.
I hope you guys understand. That was a joke. These are jokes.
It was a joke.
Okay, guys.
It was entirely a joke.
These are jokes. Okay.
The opinions I may or may not have do not reflect on the opinions of that Vivi may or may not have.
All right. I just want to say, like, I have said this before. It's just whatever things that you guys hear on here, the goal is not to how do you say, fight. These jokes are not meant to get you guys riled up so that we punch each other. I hope that these jokes are making it so that things are a little bit calmer and that you guys understand it. It's just, we're trying to have a relaxed talk and inform. I believe someone previously, I think it was Corvalon. Corvalon was asking if there's going to be another person that comes on, like for example, a conservative and a liberal, to talk about things to get like the different views of what's going on. That is something that I would welcome maybe in the Twitch chat. At this moment, we do not have anybody that's a streamer that's lined up for this. But later on, after we get to a certain point, I'd be happy to talk about different points that people bring up in the Twitch chat. Okay, go ahead.
There's also the other side of this is that when it comes to like, hey, let's have a balanced perspective on the panel, you then have to also have a moderator. You then also have to have the spoons to be part of that back and forth, which not everybody has.
What he's referencing right now, the spoons idea, is that all this thing is not free in terms of energy and effort on our part, so that not everybody has the the stamina, and not everybody has like basically stamina, the physical and mental stamina to stay talking about this thing for a very, very long time, especially when you're arguing or for or against something. Things can get very heated, so keep that in mind. Suris usually does this as like a solo thing. A solo act. It's more like a one person to a lot of people kind of thing. He might debate things with videos that he finds, but it's not the same as a live debate. Okay.
And I've done live debate before. The problem, me personally, the problem I run into with live debate is my memory is awful. I rely
when we start getting the technicalities.
I rely very heavily on notes when it comes to things that I like. Even like right before this discussion, I literally was just doing a bunch of crash course research that I had already done before, but I know that if I don't very, very quickly refresh it in my head, it's not going to be there. It's going to go somewhere out into the aether, and I'm just going to lose it. Not lose it as in go crazy, but like lose the thing I needed to talk about, which is. Like, I hate that because I liked doing live debate. I did it for the first 3 years of my channel. Every month or two, I would have somebody on for a live debate, or I would go on to one of the debate shows. At the time, it was Non Sequitur show. After that, it turned into Modern Day Debate. And then even the Atheist Ed's channel would host like multi-round discussion stuff that I would be part of.
Emotional damage!
Just as my ability to remember things and call things easier starts to wane, my ability to function in a live environment with other people also starts to wane. Mm-hmm. So that's where we run into issues. I used to debate with flat earthers. That was a time.
All right. I think we have about 45 more minutes of your time. And of course, I'd be happy with more. I don't know how much time you have left. But the original time that I've slated to steal you away from doing your other stuff is 2 hours. With the 45 minutes left, I was wondering if you can go over what is actually written in Biden's executive order. And after that, we can talk about what physical things are actually being done.
So I need to pull up the text of the order real quick.
Of course. Go ahead.
So let me go ahead and pull that up here. Oh, that is a lot of text. But
you can skip to main points. There's three, I think, big ideas.
There's four big ones.
Oh, four.
Sorry. So safeguarding access to reproductive health services, including abortion and contraception, because there's like 1 or 2 states that are actually trying to get contraception
banned,
wrapped up into this as well, which I will not give my full opinions on because my full opinions on them are not safe for Twitter or for Twitch.
Okay, that's fine.
But also protecting the privacy of patients and their access to accurate information, which, as we've already seen, has already been a problem with the 10-year-old girl that was in Ohio. The more people around that case get their information leaked to the public, because like now we have the person who did the act is charged. We have the name of the doctor. Like eventually
there's
enough
lot
of the
public names now. Yeah.
Eventually there's enough puzzle pieces where people in her school are going to go, it was you.
You were the one that got raped and now
suddenly a child's life that was already ruined is now being made substantially worse. Next thing is promoting safety and security of patients, providers, and clinics. So this one seems to be mainly the fact that there has been acts of violence around abortion clinics. The protests that happen almost 24/7 in front of them, they sometimes do devolve into violence. The level of violence is not always a bomb was planted somewhere, but things like that can and have happened. So
that's the extreme, but there's also
That's
other
the extreme.
smaller acts of violence that are still dangerous.
Like if you're like physically barring the door, for instance, when somebody's if to me physically preventing somebody from getting medical care is a type of violence. There's no difference to me between like cutting my arm and then preventing somebody from stitching up an arm that was cut. To me, like functionally the same thing is happening. A person is responsible now for me bleeding. Like and then coordinating the implementation of federal efforts to protect reproductive rights and access to healthcare. So all the issues that we run into with a lot of this, with all of these big points, they are all incredibly vague. The breadth to which any of these can be enforced is going to be up to the circumstances of whatever situation that they're put in. On the one hand, that's can be seen as a feature, not a bug. Sometimes you write laws in a vague way so that they can encapsulate more actions that need to be taken care of.
Right. So you don't have to be so specific and have a bajillion.
But sometimes it also can backfire where the court can go, this specific situation doesn't fall within your umbrella because your umbrella doesn't note it. But so the actual actionable things, the things the Secretary of Health and Human Services has been noted to take on in the next 30 days, where his executive order is considered. First one is protecting access to medical abortion. It says here that they will take additional action to protect and expand access to abortion care, including access to medication that the FDA approves as safe and effective over 20 years ago. This is just a bit in here so that a pundit can't go, these medications are scary, they're bad. Like, no, these things have been tested a long time ago. It's like saying don't have activated charcoal in a hospital, despite the myriad of times we've had to use it. The actions will apparently build upon steps that the health secretary has already taken. That bit's not super important. The next major point here that the secretary is supposed to cover is ensuring emergency medical care. So the health secretary will take steps to ensure that all patients, including pregnant women and those experiencing pregnancy loss, have access to full rights and protections for emergency medical care afforded under the law, including by considering updates to current guidance to clarify physician responsibilities and protections under the Emergency Medical Treatment Act. So this is you have, as an example, you have an ectopic pregnancy. For those who don't know, that's you have a fetus that is growing in you, but it's not growing in the womb. It's growing
in the fallopian tube or somewhere else.
Yeah,
that's what they mean by ectopic.
It's growing somewhere that it will not be able to survive, and it will kill you. There are some states that have considered laws to make even ectopic pregnancy abortions illegal. But this is literally considered emergency medical care. So Biden's act here is to make it to where things like that will be considered like this thing will kill you.
Yes.
This is to protect stuff like that. This also protects the physicians. By clarifying physician responsibilities, this makes it to where a doctor who like gets thrown into a court of law, like the doctor who helped in Indiana probably will be, they can go, I was doing my responsibilities under the law, and this is why. This helps protect them. The next one is protecting access to contraception. I don't think I really need to go into the details on this. Contraception includes, Plan B, condoms, things like that.
Yes. So there are certain contraceptions that some people are worried about being related to interrupting or stopping a pregnancy.
IUDs, for instance.
There's like some talk about different things about what people believe. Plan B, for example, is one thing that it's possible, very, very faintly, but possible that you can flush out a fetus but it's like very, very early zygote stage. So that's one of the things that they're thinking, for example. And some people have taken this to the extreme side, which is that maybe all these things in the contraception umbrella could be related. Again, with various amounts of evidence behind what that really means in terms of life and in terms of forming a human. Anyway, so yes, go ahead.
Like the reason something like this needs to be protected, for instance, granted, when I say the pill, that everybody knows that means like you're on the contraception pill, but there's like 5 different types of medication depending on which one you use. So just understand, like when I'm saying the pill, I'm meaning just in general all of the medications we use in terms of like interrupting monthly cycle and flow that's functionally act as contraceptive. If a law is put in to stop Plan B, for instance, to make it to where you can't have Plan B, because some states are considering laws that will label that as an abortion pill, despite it not being that. If you hit Plan B, you legally then can hit the regular contraception, because it's the same. It's the same thing. It's just a more concentrated dose that forces the body to act incredibly quickly.
Yeah. So because Plan B is a double dose of the normal birth control pill, which is, I believe, what is it? A big dose of, progesterone?
Progesterone, I believe.
Basically, it's kind of very similar to if you really needed to in an emergency situation, you don't have it, take 2 of your birth control pills, basically. That is possible for you to do. But yeah, they try not to do that because it's not good for your body. So like that's where the slippery slope comes into play.
Also, as for which states are trying to take out contraception, Missouri is one of them. Missouri is working on trying to block Medicaid funding from going to places like Planned Parenthood, and they're also trying to target contraceptives that are also funded by Planned Parenthood. Because Planned Parenthood doesn't just do abortions; they do a variety of other things.
Stuff. I'm not sure if you guys know that, but they're basically just a clinic that just specializes in sexual health.
Like even like breast cancer checks.
Yes,
they
exactly.
Will do. So the other things that the executive order puts in is launch outreach and public education efforts. So it's hard to say how actionable something like this would be outside of like a state-funded Propo campaign, where you just put out a bunch of advertisements on, social media or anywhere else, or if this would be something more akin to say like the DARE campaign was. When we had, the huge anti-drug war push. Mm-hmm. It's hard to say how this one's going to materialize, but I will say that just in general, people need to have more sexual education. We do not have very functional sexual education here in the United States. It varies very widely depending on state. And if you look at a map of states that have more abortions per 100,000 people, the states that have worse publicly funded sexual education tend to also have more abortions, because it's weird how that happens. It's very weird how that happens.
How does that happen? No, I'm just kidding.
I wonder if being told early that
you have options.
there's a pill you can take, or you can have an IUD. I wonder if those things might help people not get pregnant. Maybe.
I've actually heard that specifically as a reason, like what they call quote unquote like a feminist view of like being pro life, is that it emphasizes the importance of contraception over using abortion as an afterthought, which I thought was a very interesting take. Anyway, sorry, go on.
Also, there was a point in there said Planned Parenthood was funded by a racist eugenicist. Hitler got his idea for the Holocaust from the United States. So you're right. Yes, the United States had early brown shirt campaigns and all kinds of things that Hitler got his ideas from. However, the statement, this thing was funded by a racist, doesn't necessarily matter. Our entire country was founded by racists, and we've come a long way since then. Like it's a vapid statement that doesn't do anything. But it is true. It is technically true.
It is true. Sure.
It is
I think
awkwardly
it's
true.
important that if that's the case, you can always put a different name on something. That's kind of what we're doing now. But anyway, that's besides the point. So yeah, so that was, what was that? Was that the third
There's-
point?
There's one last
one
big
last
thing it
one.
does. Convening volunteer lawyers. The Attorney
Yes,
General.
that was one I was very curious about. Okay. Go ahead.
Yes. So it says here the Attorney General and the White House Counsel will convene private pro bono attorneys, bar associations, and public interest organizations to encourage robust legal representation of patients, providers, and third parties lawfully seeking or offering reproductive health services in the country. Such representation could include protecting the right to travel out of state to seek medical care, which we covered before. Immediately following the Supreme Court decision, the president announced his administration position that Americans must remain free to travel safely to another state to seek the care they need, as the Attorney General made clear in their statement, and his commitment to fighting the attack by a state or local official who attempts to interfere with women exercising this right. So, why does this matter? Because technically somebody could say that this part, aside from the right to travel, doesn't matter because you already have a legal right to a lawyer. You have right to legal counsel. Here's the thing. Current publicly available legal counsel, people who are on the public taxpayer paycheck for that, are haggard. They are they do their best, but realistically, in a court of law, they're not going to be able to help you out that much compared to a lawyer who takes things, who like accepts their cases, as opposed to having a ton of cases that the state says like we need you for. What this does is it allows there to be a separate pool of lawyers that you have access to bolster that pool of publicly available lawyers right now that will take your case, and they are not haggard. These are people who are not taking case by case by case by case by case, and they're on their 15th shot of caffeine, desperately trying to read through your legal paperwork, and they just forgot your name halfway through. It's trying to get attorneys that are not in that situation to be able to be your representatives.
I see. Okay. So I never heard of the president having control over something like this. I have no idea what it means for a president to say we're gonna gather pro bono lawyers. Like can the government like pay them more or something? Like I don't understand like how that comes together. Arana, thank you so much. Emotional damage. Yes. It's giving us emotional damage.
Let's see here.
I thought this was like a very weird point to me. I never thought of like the president having control over it because this is such a separate thing. It's not like there's like big federal organization of lawyers that you can kind of like just call upon and be like, hey, let's go. This is what we're doing. You know what I mean?
So the way this works is attorneys will choose, as far as I know, will choose to be part of this pool or choose not to be in this pool. The reason I say this is in November, Biden tried to push for pro bono legal aid once before in terms of it was about immigration. And immigration attorneys in November, a lot of them by and large refused to be part of the pro bono pool. And that's a thing they legally can do. So this is more like this is functionally a call to action more than anything.
Okay. So it's not that anything physical really is.
There's not going to be a police officer that shows up to a lawyer.
Exactly.
There's not going to be a police officer going up to legal eagle's house going, FBI, open up, we need you.
Yeah.
Like that's
so
not.
It's definitely more like a very strong suggestion from the president to encourage more people. Kind of.
It's a plea. It's functionally it's a plea.
It's like please take these cases. It's important.
It's him asking various bar associations, like the bar association, hey, how many of your lawyers currently are not hurting for money and can take on an extra case and are not currently bogged down by the public system? And they can go, well, we have this sheet of 20 references, and they go, okay, cool. We've got our call sheet. We're going to go make some calls and see who can help here. That's mechanically what's going on there.
Okay. That makes sense to me. That's interesting. I never thought that that'd be something that president would call for. That's interesting. I think actually this is just a side point, but how Trump has used the executive order has, I think, enlightened a lot of us about what can be done with executive orders.
Yeah, like for instance, when he tried to push through budgetary stuff for the wall and for the southern border wall, and then he realized, oh shit, the House of Representatives handles that, not me.
No, I'm sure it was done before him. Executive orders have been done many, many times. What I found really interesting, this is not like a criticism or anything. It was just more like about the different limits and like what you can do with executive orders and how often, etc. You can essentially have like unlimited executive orders. It's just kind of like during your time, you write a memo kind of thing, and then like tell people to like try to get stuff done. Go.
Yeah,
which I thought was really interesting.
It's a big call to action, and there's some stuff that's legally enforceable, but a lot of stuff will fall down onto the state senators as to whether or not they're going to operate with it. Like again, like Biden's executive order cannot stop a state from restricting abortion access within its boundaries.
Right.
It can
He's
stop
actually
a state.
not actually stopping it. Yeah.
Yeah, it can stop a state from saying you can't go to a state that doesn't have these legalities.
But he's not going to stop anybody from being like, oh, you can't make that law that tells people that you can't have abortion here or it can't be like that. It's not saying that it's kind of, okay, you can only enforce within your state, though, because that's a state thing. So they're saying, like, okay, we can help with at least interstate stuff.
Yeah, which is why, like, the biggest takeaways from here, for me, are about the information for the doctors and the patients, trying to make sure that those are kept more private, the ability to travel between states, and the separate pool of pro bono lawyers. Those are the big takeaways for me from the executive order. Now, again, how much it's going to help, I do not know. We're going to see how most of this materializes, because as of right now, this feels, to me personally, just like a nice gesture with some good things in it, but it's
so
not
much of what Democrats are known for.
But it's not. It doesn't do a whole lot.
Doesn't
Again, like
do anything, but people feel better, I guess.
Like it can. It's a thing that I think the biggest impact for this is it's going to be a thing that will allow people to go, when somebody goes, Democrats aren't protecting women's rights. A person can point to this and go, well, actually, this happened, and that's
so King Cotton, just as you're saying like look as if the system is working as it should. That is how the system should be working. I actually agree. What the issue here is in terms of like from the view of the Democratic Party trying to push an agenda versus the Republican Party trying to push an agenda. I think the Democratic Party hasn't pushed as efficiently in a lot of ways as the Republican Party has. I think the Republican Party has worked tirelessly over a very long period of time to be able to get Roe v. Wade overturned, and the Democrats are a lot more focused on other kinds of things and appearances rather than actually specific actions that are being done, which I find really interesting. You see a lot of people who are Democrats that are, let's use liberal. People who are liberal who they would not hesitate to go to the streets and pick up a sign and like yell at people. But that's very different than people coming out and actually trying to figure out what kind of systemic changes can you take, like what can you do as a person to change laws, right? Like those are not the same people that are writing to their representatives. These are not the same people who are voting in every single local election. You know, it's just very, very different.
You don't even have to write. Don't you? Here's my suggestion: don't write to your local representatives. Go talk to them physically.
Yes,
you can. Like I have personally gone to the office of Marcus Flowers, who's the person in the running for my district, trying to run against Marjorie Taylor Greene. Like I've personally gone and met him and asked him his position on various things. One of my conversations with him was about his position on unionizing and some of the acts that the House can work where that's concerned. Like these are things you can do. Their office location is publicly available info. If you have a problem, you can literally go and talk to either the head of their team. I have the personal phone number for his team head in my phone, and have sent them one of my videos on budget stuff.
You sent them your videos? Oh my god, I didn't know. Okay, that's interesting.
It was one of the ones from before I was a VTuber, so at least it'll be received at least a little better there. But
You don't think that after having a VTuber in this platform that you'll be heard more seriously?
so I have this thought in my head that even if I were to bring, say, Marcus onto my platform and have an interview with him, which I want to do, I think it would probably not be a good idea for him because it is so easy. It is so easy for a conservative pundit to spin that into like some conversation about degeneracy or something. Like it's very easy. So I am personally avoiding that one. But me physically going to his office and talking with him, that's a thing I can and have done. Like writing your Congress is a good thing to do. Like do that, yes. Going out and picking up a sign protesting, go ahead, do that. But if you really have an issue, if you really want some kind of change,
Yeah.
please go to your local representative,
Yes.
go to their office, talk with their people, talk about the things you need done, because guess what? They're beholden to you. You're their constituent.
Yes.
That's like, and that's a thing you can do. It is surprising how easy it is.
It is
'Cause
actually
I had never done it before, but because I specifically have an issue with Marjorie herself, I want her to not represent me because she represents me.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
You-
that's cool. I hope you have a good day,
It is so easy
Mm-hmm.
to go and talk to your rep and be like, hey, I have these issues. Not to mention, if you go when there's an event where they're having a lot of people,
Don't do that.
when you go when there's an event where there's like they've invited the public to come, sit down and talk with the other people who are in your political party who are voting for them and get their opinions too. Like, don't just rely on Twitter and YouTube and the news to tell you how people in your party feel. Go to the places they're congregating and talk with them. It's a thing you can do. Like, I'm not doing this as a touch grass moment. I'm doing this because we have representatives for a reason. They represent us. Go do the thing.
So this is mostly for the people that are inactive in, or how do you say it? What's that word where you like do the the motion but maybe not like the action?
Where you're
It's something signaling or whatever.
virtue signaling.
Virtue signaling. Thank you.
Virtue signaling. Yeah, don't just virtue signal on
This
Twitter
is more
about
for talking to people who are virtue signaling. This has nothing to do with like if you personally don't want to go down there. I mean, that's fine. That's up to you. It's your decision what to do. If you feel like it's an issue, like if you feel like whatever dangers are surrounding it, it's obviously your own action. Don't feel like us saying these things means like you have to do XYZ or we're judging you or whatever it is. It's your own life. Obviously do your own thing. So whatever makes you happy. I know that a lot of people enjoy going to protests. They feel like it's a good way for them to reach out and like be part of something and let like the common people understand like what is actually happening and that it's an issue. Like I get that side. I just also feel that there are other things that are way more directly related to an action that you can do.
Yeah. Like there are actions you can do. And even like let's say you personally want to get involved and you're like, well, I don't think I'll be able to be represented, in the House. I don't think I'll be able to become a House rep for my district. Mm-hmm. That is probably true. Like statistically, it is very hard to do and you probably don't have the funding. Guess what, though? If you want to run for a local office, you just can. You're like your city has publicly available positions that you can run in. If you want to dip your toe into trying to change things around you politically, you can literally check out what your city is having elections for soon. And just go run.
You don't understand how relevant this is right now because there are actually a lot of people right now in a lot of states and a lot of local areas that are actually running because they are passionate about it now. I think it's definitely running away from the trend of there being a polished politician that gets run. It's more like people who have some money and some people who are very passionate that come together and can do it now, which I find really, really interesting. And I think part of it you're gonna kill me for saying this. Part of it, I think, is actually thanks to Trump, for like showing that it is possible for someone that's not like the typical politician to like get up there.
Oh, it's galvanizing. It's very galvanizing. I will say that he to me, I did not see much difference between him and a typical politician outside of the inability to use euphemisms. To the function of being like a CEO on a board and the function of being a politician, a lot of the same mechanics are involved. There's a lot of transferable skills from one to the other.
Mm-hmm.
But
Joker.
let's say you don't have the money. Like you're worried that you don't have the money to campaign, right? Like that's a very obvious issue. Guess what? May I introduce you to the idea of a couple of things here. The first one is the idea of a PAC. A PAC. So a PAC.
Oh no. Oh no. Okay, go ahead.
So the function of a PAC is to have that funding available for people who run. If you get sponsored for your party, if you get chosen to be a rep for your party, then you will have access to party funding from PACs. You gain that now. Let's say you don't have that though. You're not out of luck still. There are private orgs. One of them is run for something. And their job is to not only pool the funding available for people to run, but also to give them basic training for running for politics. Mm-hmm. Like if you want to get involved politically, you have a lot of options. There's a lot of stuff you can do. Like there's a ton of stuff you can do. And yeah, Digivas is right. There's a lot of people who are politically apathetic. And you really, if you have the energy to care about politics, then try to care about politics. I'm not saying alienate your friends who disagree with you. Don't do that, because guess what? You need your friends who disagree with you. You need them.
I have just talked about this on Twitter. Oh my god, yes, exactly. Everyone's like, why don't you just block people that you don't like and like say the wrong things?
No, sometimes they're right.
It's not about that.
Hyde Scotch did have a question. There was a why do you say CEO versus politics? So mechanically, convincing people on the Senate floor, convincing people in the House, writing the legislation, all of those skills are identical to being a CEO or being on a board of directors where you're having to appeal to the board. You're having to appeal to more people as a politician because there's voting involved, but the base mechanical functions of writing that legislation, it exists in both fields. You learn to do it in one, you can learn to do it in the other. Just like working at a fry grill in one restaurant, the equipment might be different in another one, but you've done it before. What a great analogy.
That's interesting. Right? Yeah.
You've done it at least once before. You've sat down in front of a group of people and made appeals to them. You've tried to argue that Plan A is currently working or not working, and what you're going to do about it. That's like those are things you learn in the business world, and there are things you will learn in the political world, and you can move them from one to the other.
So how do you know about this? I'm surprised because I don't think this is something that you would actually normally see in like most of the references or like sources that you can see online. Do you have experience working in like a company?
So do I have experience working in a company just in a managerial sense?
I see.
I've been a manager for, I don't want to say specifically which places, but I've been a manager for various places, and I've had these conversations with family of mine who have actually moved up corporate ladder and seen the things that they've had to do there, and spoken with people who have either ran their own companies or just ran their own small businesses and noticed that all of those skills look the same as when I've talked to people who do run for things like representatives. I actually had about a year and a half ago, I had Brittany Tenenbaum, who was going to be running in the primaries for the Democrats here in Georgia. She ended up not being able to run because, I'll go ahead and say it, she does cosplay, and the Democratic Party literally went,
no,
we don't like that. I'm not shitting you.
I'm not shitting you. Oh,
I have that video is up on my channel. I actually did that interview with my VTuber avatar as well.
That is hilarious.
But she did. They said you do cosplay, and
You do cosplay. You're not
the
allowed.
the word they used in their email was burlesque.
Burlesque?
Which I mean,
They thought that cosplay was burlesque. Oh my god, this is killing me.
And to be fair, like there's a line where it can be. There's a line where you're doing one or the other. But Brittany stopped being able to get funded from the Democratic Party as a potential representative because of that. She could have still kept running. She just wouldn't have had the party backing.
Interesting.
So when that happened, we talked, and I was like, do you want to vent and maybe give some information about what it's like to be in that political sphere on my channel? She said yes, and then I did that interview on my channel. So I've had
her away. You pulled her in, made it into content.
But so like the reason, while I have not personally gone through and done every single one of these things, though I have signed up for Run for something so I could get an idea of their infrastructure, and I have gone to see my representative. I've done those things. But the reason I know more about the broader application of these things is because I've talked to people who have had to do it and gotten the information from them.
Interesting. Okay.
Like it is remarkably easy if you just reach out to people. Sometimes they respond.
So I would say that there's a very low barrier to entry if you just want to enter at whatever cost possible. I would say it's actually like, how like streaming, like anybody can start streaming, right?
Yeah.
Technically, anybody can start.
Get OBS,
like you have
hit
a
the
phone,
button.
you just have to hit a button, you can stream. It doesn't mean that people will watch you or anything like that, or you're gonna win or whatever. But you can start streaming. Like so that's what I always say. Like there's very low barrier to a lot of things that are action items that you can do that you might not realize is actually quite easy.
Yeah, it feels
shockingly
like
easy.
a lot. It is. I guess the best word to describe it, it's culture shock. It's culture shock.
Culture shock.
Like looking, because there's different ways to look at the political world. If you look at the political world through the eyes of the news, then it's this giant polarized machine that is all kinds of terrible things happen behind closed doors. Like that's the frame you get just by looking through the news. But then when you start talking to representatives, you learn that yes, that's technically true, but you have access to that world too. I had a conversation with a friend when Roe got overturned, and he said, he said that he thought this was just a distraction. He wondered what Biden was doing behind closed doors, what laws he was putting through, which for one kind of explains that he doesn't know the role of the executive branch.
Raise the timer!
We actually are running a little bit lower on the time right now. We have 4 hours, 39 minutes, and 33 seconds.
But when we had that conversation, I said, that all of the executive orders, all of the pieces of paper that he is signing, all of that is public knowledge, right? He legitimately did not know. He did not know that you could access all of that information. It's not all the information available. Shitty things happen behind closed doors in politics. That's not news.
But there is documentation for most of the major things, and you can probably see a lot more than you want to.
A lot of the things, a lot
to parse through, actually.
A lot of things that affect you can publicly go see. If a bill is put on the Senate floor and the senators are arguing about we were only given 1 day to read through this bill. You've probably heard that 1,000 times. Guess what?
Sorry, give me a second. Oh my god, Nitty Gritty City, thank you so much for 1,000 biddies! Oh my god, Grumpy Ears says thank you so much for gifting 2 subbies! Giving out a subby to Nature Claws. Thank you so much!
Force Vivi to stay here forever.
So with 1,000 bits, Nitty Gritty City, if you want to, you can create a Nightbot command that will become part of this channel forever. All you have to do is talk to one of our mods. Right now, Digimouse is free. You can DM Digimouse, or Digimouse can talk to you, whatever it is, in the chat is also fine, for creating a Nightbot command. So, there you go. If you want to put something cursed on there, you can. Oh, Joga's also here, so Joga can also help with that. Wait a second, did you guys start a hype train? Thank you so much for the hype train.
You're on a level 2 hype train.
Thank you guys. Thank you so much for starting a hype train. Okay, talk to Joga, says Digi. Since Joga will be Jogo will be around and Digi is about to leave. So yeah, please talk to Jogabogi. So yeah, we're in the middle. For those of you that are just joining us, we're talking about various things. Basically, education, about how our government is sort of working right now and how to get involved. That's the current topic. Oh my god, Hobbit, thank you so much for 1,000 biddies! Hobbit, you can also create a Nightbot command. So you already know the drill, because I think you have a few that you're saving for later.
There you go. Again, I will
I'm the
repeat,
conductor
everybody
of
keep
the
Vivi here as long as
poop
possible.
train.
Make streaming their eternal prison.
You're gonna imprison me! Oh no.
Yes.
Oh god.
And thanks to the 13th Amendment, you know what that means. I'm kidding.
No, stop. All right, so I was thinking, as we're bringing all these things together, we talked about, just as a brief overview, we talked about a little bit about what it means to have a court case show up in the Supreme Court, and what it means for it to be overturned, and what it means in terms of the different branches of our government and what they sort of functionally do, and then in terms of your role, what you can do. And specifically, we also talked a little bit about just executive orders in general, because I think that's like a new thing that has become part of the public eye a lot more than usual. So we talked a little bit about what those do and like what the power behind it is. And essentially, there's zero power behind a lot of these things. It's more like a call to action for things to happen. So, the things to think about. So as we're pulling all this together to a close, we have about 10 more minutes in terms of like this section specifically with NekoSuris. I was thinking maybe we can, if there's anything specific that you guys like to ask in the chat, I'll pick like a few things. I'll try to pick things that are different or that I found was interesting. So if there's anything that you want to ask me or NekoSuris, now is the time. So yeah. For those of you that don't know, NekoSuris is a, how do I say this? You're not exactly, I mean, you're kind of like a political VTuber, but like, I don't know. I feel like it's not just that though. You're kind of like just a discussion person. I guess it's talk about all kinds of things, but it's not always politics too.
No, it's not. It's not always politics. There's a section of every stream that's dedicated to talking about political stuff specifically, but the majority of the content that goes on my main channel is some flavor of political. Also,
Revelations 12:17. Then
You're
the dragon
amazing.
became furious with the woman and went off to make war on the wrath
Oh my
of her
God.
offspring, on
So,
those who keep the commandments of God and hold to the testimony of Jesus.
Okay.
And he stood on the sand of the sea.
I have a redeem. Hype Scotch, thank you so much for 666 biddies. You are the first person to use this to have me read a Bible verse, and thank you so much for putting the Bible verse here for me to actually... Wait, is there a dragon in the Bible? I did not know this. Okay.
oh yeah,
Revelations 12:17. All right. Are you guys ready? Sorry. Let me see if I can put on... I'm not sure if this is an appropriate outfit for this.
I could read it as Mickey Mouse.
Okay, here we go. Then the dragon became furious with the woman and went off to make war on the rest of her offspring, on those who keep the commandments of God and hold on to the testimony of Jesus. And he stood on the sand of the sea. There you go. I hope you enjoyed that reading.
Hype Scotch, isn't that the verse that talks about the harlot of Babylon? Could be wrong.
I don't know anything about the Bible. I'm so sorry.
That's fair enough.
Wow, thank you so much for 10 subs! Holy shitballs. You have triggered a Rickroll. I'm going to play it in just a second. I just want to address one thing before that. I believe someone was asking, why do you hate MTG? I don't know what MTG is. I feel like you would know what MTG is.
Marjorie Taylor Greene.
Oh, okay.
So my position on Marjorie Taylor Greene, I'll make it very, very brief. I do not want someone representing me that believes that California was lit on fire by Jewish space laser satellites. Those are things that she said.
What?
And I am not paraphrasing.
Oh, I actually did think that it was Magic the Gathering for a second. I was like, there's no way.
That is
because that's what I usually see MTG meeting. I was like, that can't be though, because we didn't talk about Magic.
No, we didn't. But that is like I think that sentence probably surmises most of my opinions where she is concerned. Because any individual political disagreement we might have and do have, I think they all kind of boil down from that one foundation. A person who believes something that ludicrous will necessarily believe other things that are equally ludicrous because it's within their own personal Overton window. And that's my issue.
I see. Okay. So
Yeah,
you feel like because of the extremism within some of the views, you're worried that there's an issue in terms of like validity to some of the other views that the person might have. Oh my god! What? Exotopian, please. Why this one? This is so freaky.
Whose genitals were like those of donkeys, and whose machine was like that of horses.
Oh my god! I love this one.
Shitting me.
I love the Ezekiel verse.
Oh my god. Okay, all right. I'll do this for you. All right. Ezekiel 23:20-21. There she lusted after her lovers, whose genitals were like those of donkeys, and whose emission was like that of horses. I didn't know they were different. Okay. So you longed for the lewdness of your youth, when in Egypt your bosom was caressed, and your young breasts fondled.
So I quoted that verse to a friend of mine, and they literally went, "That's not in the Bible."
Did they?
You made that up. You made that up. That's not real. That wasn't in the Bible. And then I had to literally show them the verse. I'm just like,
it's right there.
I'm just like, I used to study this because I wanted to be a theologian. I can point to some.
What?
Really? I grew up in a Christian private school.
I didn't know you were gonna be. You were planning to be a theologian. That's really interesting. Oh, that's why you know so much about this stuff as well.
That was a thing that I wanted to do as a career at one point. Was be a theologian, which can either lead you down the right route of being a pastor, or can lead you down the right of being a pundit apologist. Like there's a lot of things. There's a lot of things you can.
Oh, okay.
Well, yeah. Functionally, that's what you end up being.
That's interesting. Yeah, that's true. I didn't even think about it. Yeah.
So, like,
we are 38% of the way to a level 5 hype train, by the way.
I know an awkward bit about that book because I used to study it a lot.
So you know all the really weird shit in it. Okay.
Like, if we were, this is a fun one. So you know the Sodom and Gomorrah story, right? Do you know it?
Oh, sorry. Before we get to the end of it, I do want to get to some of the questions in the chat. Playout Consoles has a question. My question is your opinion on how politics are purposely made hard to exclude people from getting more involved. I think that was a little bit roundabout. I think maybe Playout Consoles is talking about how it makes it feel like it's difficult to join in politics. I think there's like a gatekeeping.
I think a lot of that is on purpose. So there is an effort, and there always has been, to make it harder to do things like vote. In my state specifically, there's a laundry list of things that my governor did to make it harder to vote in certain areas of the state. There's been things like redlining that have been used to make it harder to, and gerrymandering that are technically illegal but are still technically done. That have been done to make it harder to gain access to either the funding or the information or even the voting period. There's always been a concerted effort to make it harder to get involved in politics in the United States, to try to make that a thing that is held exclusively by one side. And when I say one side, I'm not saying exclusively held by Republicans or Democrats, because they're both responsible for this shit.
They both have this idea where barrier might be a good idea. Interesting. So like there's like some kind of idea of like some elitism associated with it. I think culturally there's definitely that for sure.
And
thank
then
you guys
also,
so much
like,
for level 4 hype train. That was 11 subs and 3,432 bits. Thank you. Thank you guys. Choo.
And then there's also issues where when it comes to our education on how our political system work, works, we usually get taught that there are the three branches of government, the people who inhabit them, but not really how to become part of that. We're told to vote so other people can do it, which is, true. Go out, vote, do that. But we're not generally told in public education how to hold those reins of power ourselves. And again, that is a problem with all sides of the political spectrum.
Yeah, that's true. That's actually why I think this section is so important that we're talking about right now. Like I said, like there's just a lot of things that just seem like so inaccessible, right? But like it is out there, but we don't teach it that way. We don't teach it in a way that it's supposed to be accessible to everybody in this way. It's taught that, hey, somewhere out there, someone is doing this thing, and that's sort of what it looks like. How do you feel about non-citizens voting, says King Pluton?
It depends. How long have they been here? If you are affected by our laws, my questions then have to be, because I can't answer this just with a quick answer. My answer has to be a question, which is, why is that person not a citizen? Are they here on their 3 months, just from another country? Yeah, no, I don't want them voting in our elections. Somebody who's just here for 3 months and then they're leaving, and maybe they're popping back and forth, but they don't have citizenship here. I don't want them voting. But if somebody has been here for 10 years and they are a citizen in all but legal name, and it is just red tape that is preventing them from becoming a citizen, I think that person should have the right to vote. Because there's functionally no difference between that person and somebody who came here and became a citizen 2 years ago. Like, there's mechanically no difference, and I'm very utilitarian. My questions will always fall down to, why is this person not a citizen yet? What is preventing them from being it? If it's their personal choice, then okay, cool. You don't want to be a citizen here, don't vote here. But if they do, wow, my cat is not enjoying life.
Oh, that's your cat.
Yeah,
I was like, your significant other is having a wild game over there streaming.
Yeah. But we have had instances where like someone has immigrated here from another country. They have gotten married here, and they've been here for 10 years. They've had children here who've been here for 8 years of their life, and this person has been contributing their paycheck to our pool of usable taxes this whole time, and yet various bits of legal red tape have stopped them from being able to actually receive United States citizenship. In a situation where that happens, you have to make the argument to me why this person shouldn't be voting, because I see no difference between them and me at this point.
I understand what you mean. So, as you know, this is a very liberal view. I'm sure there's also some people out there that feel the opposite, which is that since they're not a citizen, they don't pay taxes. There are certain things that should make it so that this is like something specific to people that actually have a tied investment with the nation that they're living in. Stuff like that. We are actually rounding about to the end of our time. It is 6:02 p.m. EDT. You're welcome to stay as long as you want. We have a few people in the waiting room that I'm going to bring in now. If you'd like to stay and continue talking, I'd be happy. I just might take a little break to grab some food because this is the dinner section of the Subathon.
So I think for me, I do have the tournament to get to that we talked about before. Yeah. But I am perfectly fine coming on, not later during the subathon itself, but anytime that you want to do something together.
I'm love open to. For it, you know how much I love you.
As long as our schedules allow for it. Though maybe at one point we can have conversations that are not strictly political.
We can also fuck around. Yes.
We'll play some game that everybody can cringe at us being bad at.
True. That's very nice. I'm sure. I think a lot of people in my chat very much appreciate the knowledge that you bring and just the level-headedness that you have, I think, while talking about a lot of these issues. And a lot of people here, and I've noticed it, even people who disagree with your opinions and different things that you've said, they're still staying because they find it intriguing and they do want to talk to you about it. Yes, apparently you could always discuss Sonic porn. Apparently,
mean,
that's a common ground for you. I know you like to talk about Sonic in general. That's like a huge. You have a whole YouTube channel dedicated to just like Sonic talk. So like that is definitely like a huge thing. I don't know anything about Sonic, besides the fact that there's like some weird memes out there with Sonic. that's basically all I know. Every once in a while, I see a weird picture, and I know Suris Digital also loves Sonic, so I'm sure you guys can talk about that as well. Yeah.
I will say as well, if anybody has questions that I wasn't able to answer during this, since we didn't have a whole lot of time for that part, my DMs are always open. That's just a policy I've had since the beginning of whenever I've done my stuff. I will say, if you get weird by DMs, I will be blocking you instantly. But that
don't forget to treat people with respect, especially when you're in a private space with them, like a DM, and you're talking to them. Just don't forget that they're a person. Don't get weird, don't get creepy, don't ask for any personal information. Please don't bother them all the time. They have every right to block you or not answer you at any given time. That is their right, okay? So don't push, okay? I know that it's easy to push when you feel very passionate about something, but just try to keep that in mind that, we're also people that have other wants and needs besides just talking to you. Okay. So as Suris has said, he said that his DMs are open, so you're welcome to talk to him. I believe the Twitch DMs is what you're talking about. Is that right?
Twitch DMs. You could do it on Discord. You could do it on Twitter.
Do you want me to share like your Discord ID or something?
If you just want to go like @SurisSkeptic on Twitter, like that's probably the easiest place.
Okay. The easiest place is Twitter then. So if you go to twitter.com, let me just write it out. Twitter.com/NekoSuris, I believe. Yeah. I think that should be right. Yeah. You can go there. Oh, wait. Is that not? Oh, no. Did I write it wrong? Is there an underscore somewhere? Fuck.
No, just the Twitter is just @SurisSkeptic.
Oh, Skeptic. Oh, that's what it was.
Yeah.
Sorry. I wrote it out wrong. Twitter.com/Neko. I'm totally doing it the wrong way, which is writing it out manually.
It works though. It's like a link now.
Oh my god!
I do want to thank you.
Oh my god! I can't.
On.
Okay, fuck it. I'm looking it up because I can't do this. I'm so sorry. Why am I so bad at this? Okay, NekoSuris Skeptic.
In that.
Is it Suris Skeptic? Oh my god, I'm an idiot. Okay, thank you.
There you go.
I can't.
You did it.
Why am I so bad? Ignore the other ones. They weren't there. Okay, there. It's Suris Skeptic. Just shut up, play on consoles. We're not talking about this. Okay. Everybody, we're going to wave goodbye. Thank you so much for joining me for this time. It was so enjoyable. The time just flew by. It always flies by when I'm talking to you. So I would be so happy to come on again just to chill and play games. We don't have to do like, real real heavy stuff. We can take a break from all these kinds of things and just chill with each other, which we haven't really done. I mean, in DMs we do, but
yeah.
but every time we're on stream, I'm always like these kinds of things. So yeah, everybody wave goodbye. We had a lot of good times, right? We wish you all the best, and I'm definitely gonna see you again sometime. I know we are. I can't imagine not being in contact with you. So yeah, now we're gonna be bringing in our next people, and Suris, you're welcome to leave anytime as you're setting up your stuff. I'm just gonna start bringing people into the live stream now.
Hello.
Hello.